Üdvözlök mindenkit, ez itt az Alapjogokért Központ különkiadású, exkluzív podcastje. A mai vendégünk a republikánus Rising Star Kari Lake, aki Arizona kormányzói tisztségéért indult, és nagy eséllyel emlegetik őt leendő republikánus alelnök jelöltként. Most hozzá is fordulok. Welcome to the studio. It's an honor to have you here, Mrs. Lake. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. You're here in Budapest because of CPAC Hungary. Am I right?
Yes, indeed. I was so honored to be invited. I mean, I think I heard you say rising star of the Republican movement, and I'm thinking to myself...
So you do understand Hungarian?
Well, I heard it. I don't understand Hungarian. It's a beautiful language. I'm not quite there. But when you said that, I thought to myself, wow, here I am, just a mom who is looking out for my kids. I'm going to be very selfish. I'm looking out for my children and other children. And to have been able to take the needs of moms and dads and parents and citizens and bring that to the forefront to become a rising star in politics is quite remarkable. And I can only give credit to God and the good people of Arizona, where I'm from, in the United States. They recognize that we're in trouble right now. And if we don't step forward as individuals and take a bold move to protect our families and our neighborhoods and our states, then we're in trouble as a world. So I'm honored to be here at CPAC. I can't, pinch me, I can't believe I'm here. And Hungary is absolutely beautiful. You are making amazing strides in protecting the citizens and their rights here. And I'd like to see us do more of that in America.
The honor is ours. And you mentioned that you came from Arizona. And I think it's maybe a blind spot for many Hungarians. So can you tell us a bit about your great state? What does it mean to you? And so on and so on.
I think we actually have a lot in common, Hungarians and Arizonans. And by that I mean, other than we live in the middle of a desert, a famous desert called the Sonoran Desert. We're on the southwestern border of the United States. But we too are a border state. And we're a border state with Mexico, and right now we're watching the most horrific humanitarian crisis and national security crisis play out on our border. And it's appalling what's happening. Our federal government is not protecting us. As a matter of fact, they're the reason we're seeing this invasion on our border. And when I decided to run for governor, because the people of my state said, please run, we want you to run, we led a movement of people who want security on our streets, we want sovereignty for our state, and we don't want a border invasion with the cartels, the drug cartels, and the CCP in charge of Arizona. And so we stood up and we put forth a really strong border plan to protect our border, because without President Trump there, under Joe Biden's horrible leadership, we've recognized that he's putting the drug cartels and the CCP ahead of we the people. And so I put forth a great, strong border policy to finish President Trump's border wall on our border so that we don't no longer see these deadly drugs pouring through, killing our young people. And that was a little too much for the establishment and the globalists who truly are trying to take control of our country to handle. And so they stole our election right in front of our eyes. They sabotaged Election Day. They shut down all the machines so that they wouldn't work.
Wow.
And all of the voters who showed up on Election Day to vote for some positive change in Arizona to strengthen our state were left there holding onto a ballot that was printed the wrong way, intentionally, that would not be able to be fed into the machines, that was spit out and unreadable.
Now, are there any, ongoing legal remedy or you have any chance?
Yeah, we're currently in court. We're currently in court right now. We're fighting every legal avenue that we can. We've had some victories, which is great. We have the strongest election case the country's ever seen. And we are fighting it in the Arizona courts. And when we're done fighting it there, we're going to take it to the United States Supreme Court, which is the highest court in our land. But we will not back down. We know what happened on Election Day. We know they stole this from us, just as they stole the presidential election from President Trump. They saw me as a threat similar to him because I'm not controlled by them. I'm just a mom. I'm controlled by the people of Arizona. And when I say controlled, it means I'm working for them. My goal when I ran for office was to return the government back to the people. The rightful owners of our government are the people. And it's been in the hands of the powerful who don't really care about the people. And in me, they got somebody who was going to return it back to them. But the establishment, as we call them, the uniparty, realize that we have to stop her by any means necessary, even if that means being very obvious and stealing the election. But we're going to win. I believe we'll win eventually. It may take a little bit of time, and we're going to get in office, and we are going to secure our border for once and for all. We're not going to have the cartels running the show in Arizona.
It's always interesting to hear about the problems of the electoral system of the U.S. under a democratic administration, because usually Obama's and nowadays Biden's administration is the one which criticizes on a regular basis the Hungarian electoral system. But we'll come back to that. But back to you. Somewhere you described yourself as the angry mom from Arizona. Some others say that Kari Lake is the new face of MAGA republicanism. What is this MAGA republicanism? What is this Make America Great Again republicanism? And what distances this movement or this type of republicanism from other Republicans?
That's a great question. Well, I don't see myself as overly angry. I'm fed up. I'm tired of what I'm seeing. I'm tired of the people we elect into office getting into office and doing nothing to protect us. They give us a bunch of promises. We're going to do this, that, and the other, and they don't do anything. And Trump was a different politician. He made a lot of big promises to the point that many pundits said, well, he's a liar. He's not going to do any of that. And immediately he got into office and started to tick off his to-do list, as we call it. Moms call it a to-do list. And he just went through and started doing everything. And he had the entire establishment, the swamp, behind him, just beating him every day, trying to bring him down. The media was bringing him down, but he continued to fight for us. That's what MAGA means, Make America Great Again. And I think a lot of the ways it's what Prime Minister Viktor Orban has done for Hungary. He's said, we need to represent the citizens, not the special interests, not the European Union. We're part of that, but if we're not working for our people, then what good are we? If we're not making our country better, then what good are we? And so that's what we need to do in America. And I think that the America First movement, you can call it MAGA, I call it America First movement. And then you can boil that down to each state. We have 50 states. For me, it was putting Arizona first. And that means we take what our citizens of Arizona need, and we put that ahead of special interests. We put that ahead of the federal government. We put that ahead of Mexico. And we say, what do the people of Arizona need so that they can prosper, so that they can live free, they can enjoy their liberties that are enshrined in the Constitution? And we do that as politicians. It's never been done before, President Donald Trump. And so I'm a real admirer of his because he had the gumption to get in. He had a very comfortable life. He's a billionaire. You've been to his home in Mar-a-Lago. He's got many properties. He could go and live a beautiful life without getting involved. And he chose to put that aside and get into the belly of the beast and fight for the people. And that's what MAGA is. It's really putting the needs of the people first, returning our government to the people, which is what our founding fathers died for. You know, in 1776, our founding fathers stood up, they signed their name to the Declaration of Independence. They were signing their death warrant. 56 brave men, 56 alpha males signed their name very largely on the Declaration of Independence and basically told King George in England to shove it, that we were going to be a republic and we were going to have a government that was run by the people. And when they did that, they spilled blood, they lost treasure, many of them lost their lives. But I'm not going to sit back 246 years later and allow that those men and many others who fought wars for America to have died in vain while we watch our country be taken over by globalists. And that's what the other side of the Republican Party is. We've got two sectors of the Republican Party. There's a sector which we call the establishment Republican, and frankly, they are globalists, using the name Republican to try to convince people that they're conservative. And actually, they're not conservative. They're very liberal. They're leftists. And they want to march us toward a globalist society where we lose what it means to be American. We are up against globalism versus Americanism. And if we lose America right now, I fear the whole world tumbles down with us.
Great, and it was very catching when you mentioned the mom's to-do lists, and you know, my wife, she has like many of it, so I know what you are talking about. But on the to-do list of the so-called globalists, being, you know, Republicans or Democrats, on the top of their to-do list seems to me, here in Hungary, Europe, that on the top of their list is the war in Ukraine. While I suppose that the moms in Arizona have like a very, very different to-do list. So how came this together? The elites in DC pushing the war further and further, while the moms in Arizona, they are asking for, you know, border protection and, you know, their own safety.
Well, we feel that we're at a war at home in many ways, and I will tell you, they're going to have a really hard time convincing mothers and fathers in America to fight a war in Ukraine. And while we respect Ukraine's borders and we respect Hungary's borders and we want to make sure that there isn't a World War III, it sure seems like the globalist leaders are pushing us toward that. They're trying to run us into World War III. And the people of Arizona will never support that. While our border is wide open and we're watching hundreds of thousands of people, frankly millions of people pour into our country, and most horrifyingly, tens of thousands of pounds of fentanyl, which is the most dangerous, deadly drug we've ever seen, kill our young people. Every day on the campaign trail, I was campaigning for 525 days. Wow. Almost weekly, I would have a mother or father come up to me and tell me that they lost a 19-year-old son, a 20-year-old daughter to fentanyl poisoning. Their son or daughter took one pill and is gone. And that is unacceptable. So I think it's going to be a really hard sell for the American people to agree to jumping into a war, half a world away. That being said, we want peace, and just as you want peace here in Hungary, because you have the most to lose, I think. The other European nations might be trying to beat the drums of war, but here in Hungary, you would have the most to lose.
It's good to hear that someone from the U.S. is speaking about peace in connection with Ukraine, because
didn't the left used to want peace? I remember in America we called them the hippies, and
previously they promoted make love not war. That was their slogan.
Now it's only
nowadays war. Now it's only war. Yeah.
Make war and don't make love and don't have children and don't procreate.
And
they just want war.
Left, it's only war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we're not for it. We're not for it. We are for the security and the sovereignty of Hungary and Ukraine, but we are not for taking hundreds of millions of hundreds of billions of American dollars that taxpayer money that we frankly need to strengthen our borders, and sending it across the sea and over into a foreign land right now. We're just in trouble at home, and as we all know, I mean, we're all family people. When you have trouble at home, you can't solve the world's problems if you've got troubles at home. And so you have to get your own home in order. You have to strengthen your own family. Then you strengthen your own neighborhood. Then you strengthen your own town, community, country, before you can go and solve the rest of the world's problems. And that's where I feel we are in America right now.
Amen, I can say. But I still have a few questions, because what you said highly resonates to the core message of CPAC Hungary. Last year it was about God, homeland, and family. Now the slogan, the motto of CPAC Hungary is United We Stand. And my question to you is, how do you see, in the shadow of a war, in the shadow of a very fragile international security system, how do you see the future or the present of the cooperation of conservatives at the international level? How do you see the possibilities that you from the US, other ones from South America or from Western Europe, or we Hungarian conservatives can act globally against a global liberal aggression, threatening our values?
That's a tough, that's a difficult question to answer.
Sorry for that.
But I'm gonna give it a try. I think when we as conservatives work to strengthen our own neighborhoods and nations, that we are able to have a bigger role in the world. And right now, somebody said to me, you don't have a lot of foreign policy experience. And I said, wow, that's interesting, because a lot of the people with the foreign policy experience have led us into war after war after war. They've led us into conflict where we don't belong. They've destroyed our economy. They've destroyed the equilibrium that we should have in this world. And so maybe I'm glad I don't have that, because what I do know is that peace starts at home. Peace starts in our own states, in our own communities. And I think that we need to do a better job at taking the message of the conservative values, which are a good thing, and even though the leftist media tries to make us, they call us right-wingers and all kinds of names, and I believe the people of this world are onto that. They realize that whoever the media is attacking, the loudest and the harshest, are the ones who are actually fighting for the people. So one of the things I think we can do better is work to take our message to a more local level and explain to people, especially in America, who maybe aren't following politics, and I'm not sure how it is here in Hungary, but the average everyday people, they're not following the minutia of world politics, but it affects them, and explain to them what's really going on, what it means to push us into a World War III, which sure seems like we're on the verge of, and it's happening so quietly that I think it's going to be upon us before we realize it. And then the people are going to say, wait a minute, how did this start? Because we haven't explained it well enough to them. So finding a way as conservatives to get into the ear of average, everyday people to explain where we are, to offset what the fake news media is saying about us. I'm not sure if that answered the question.
No, it covered my question. Thank you very much. And I really do hope that the Hungarian right has found a friend in Kari Lake in order to promote this cooperation of national conservative forces at the international level.
Absolutely. I got to say this to your Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. I feel for him, because I think that, similar to President Trump and myself, when you are truly fighting for your people and fighting to make your state, your community, your country a better place, more hospitable to life, and to allowing your citizens to live freely with liberties intact, you're going to be attacked. It's not fun. I never got into this. I was one of the most beloved people in Arizona. I decided to get into politics because the people asked me to run, and now I'm one of the most attacked people in America. But I'm just to the point as a mother where I don't care what they say about me. We have a saying in America, maybe you have it here, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And Americans have allowed words to hurt them. They were so worried about being canceled on social media and being attacked by the leftist folks out there that they've sat there quietly while their children are being harmed. While their own children are being harmed with brainwashing, moms and dads have sat quietly because they're afraid to speak out. Imagine that. We are here to protect our own children, and we're afraid to speak out. So I just ask every mother and father out there, everybody who has a niece or a nephew, every student out there, it is our time to speak out. Use our voices. Speak out against this globalist push, because it is a push toward the end of our freedoms. It is a push toward the end of our countries, our culture. And I really do feel a positive movement coming on, thanks to people like Viktor Orban, who showed us what you can do to build back from communism, which is globalism by a different name. And so I'm completely with the people of Hungary. I'm completely with CPAC, and I'm thrilled to be here.
So it's like, it seems to me that my question is a bit unfair. However, because you've just arrived. Anyway, what would you say to those knowing Hungary only from the globalist media, who know very well that, you know, Hungary is a country of fascist, racist, nationalist forces, and so on and so on. So what are your experience so far?
Well, I haven't been here long, but I have done a little bit of research, and I've been watching. And I always know, because I worked in the media. Yes, I worked in the news. Unfortunately, it's fake news these days. And I worked in it for 30 years, so I understand how the media works to lie to people, to get into their brains, to make them think what the media wants them to think. I understand it. I worked in that line of work for a long time. I was one of the honest brokers, but I also understand how they're operating to get into the minds of people, to sway and push the world into this globalist, homogenized world where we lose our identity, where we lose our culture. And so I don't know if I'm answering the question. Your question was, how do we fight back against that?
Indeed.
Okay, well, what I'm seeing in Hungary is when I saw that Viktor Orban was being attacked with all these names, you know, Nazi, fascist, all of the things they've called Trumpist. It piqued my interest because I thought, wow, that's exactly what they're doing to Trump. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what they're doing to me. That's exactly what they're doing to every American who's standing up and fighting against this push to take away our constitutional rights. So I started researching and realized, oh, actually what Prime Minister Orban is doing is fighting for the people. He's fighting for families. He's fighting for Hungary. And I immediately just recognized whatever the media says, you have to think the opposite. You have to think the opposite. And sure enough, I arrive here. I see some of the happiest people I've ever seen. I came here from New York City where things were a little bit gloomy because it's being run by truly people who have dead-end policies and are trying to destroy New York City. And so I come into Hungary, and we're here in Budapest, and I see amazing young families, children running and playing. I see music in the park, people dancing in the parks. It was truly one of the most beautiful things I've seen. And I see people working, enjoying the work they're doing. It's a remarkable example of how you can come from the depths of despair, and you guys were stuck in a pretty desperate situation before you found this new freedom of realizing you have rights. Yeah. And turn it around. It gives me hope that as bad as things are right now in the United States with a administration that is dead set on trying to destroy our rights, that when we get President Trump back in office and get America First candidates in office, we can turn things around quickly because we have the foundation with our United States Constitution to pull us up, and we're going to do it. And Hungary gives me great hope.
Thank you very much, and your bravery gives hope for us. It was a pleasure to have you here at the center, and we do really hope that we can welcome you in the forthcoming future at CPAC Hungary in Budapest as well. Nagyon szépen köszönjük Kari Lake-nek, hogy ma velünk volt. Ez az Alapjogokért Központ podcastjának külön kiadása volt, azt hallhatták, viszontlátásra.